started.
Yep, we started.
Alright, well, welcome to the Gnostic Deluge. Brandon.
Hi,
Good to
I'm
see
Brandon.
you today.
Good to see you too, Mark.
Thanks.
We are not. Should I mention that we're not really prepared for this?
We're as prepared as we'll.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we have plenty to talk about because we've already been talking for an hour.
Yeah, Mark's gonna bust the drinks out right now.
I'm busting out the
Oh, that's a different.
triple ginger brew from Trader Joe's.
And it has a kick.
Supposedly.
So we apologize that our last video, the ginger beer, did not have a kick.
Whoa! I didn't expect that. Holy moly!
Yeah.
Dang, that was sweet.
That's been waiting. That's been waiting to be
This
opened.
has been. I think my dad had this at Christmas, so it's
Really?
been sitting in my
Oh.
Okay, Brandon, give it a taste while I'm pouring. Anyway, today we're gonna talk about the Book of Enoch. Oh, well, you don't look too happy, Brandon.
No, I'm just trying to decide whether that's a bite or whether it's a.
Nah, the taste reminds me of the reeds.
Does
that
it?
Sucks.
No, wait. Look.
It doesn't. Like, you know what? I think the best ones that we've had so far are the Cock and Bull.
Those were good. Those were good.
And Goslings.
Yep.
This one tastes a lot like the.
It does.
Reeds.
The very, like the what's the.
Just
the less than stellar reeds. What do you got there?
Bundaberg.
Mark.
Anyway.
You just Australian family owned. Wait, you're just gonna say screw that and bust this open?
Yeah, it doesn't taste good.
Pull out, then pull up.
Okay. See, that's more like it. That's way better. This one's got like kind of a, like the reeds. Anyway, so there you go. There's our review.
Yep.
So
that's good.
Today we're talking about, that's way better. But I think Goslings and Cock and Bull are probably the best so far.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Enoch and Giants, which is like a really interesting subject because it's this story that is kind of is alluded to in the Bible. Where is it that?
Yeah, so in Genesis, and I think most people are kind of interested when there's reference to, and what is it? And there's in those days there was giants or something like that, right?
Gosh dang, yeah. Now I can't.
Mark is so rusty at his scripture, at his Bible reading.
What is this Bible?
Capabilities here.
Sons of God, daughters of man, flesh came, bare children. The same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. Okay.
What's wrong with mighty men?
That's what it said. I know. But where's the reference to giants?
It doesn't. It says mighty men.
Oh,
I think
that's a way better. Actually, yeah, maybe the Bible actually says it in the right way.
For once, the Bible's correct.
They translated it. Because they're probably like, we're not gonna put freaking giants in there. That's crazy.
That's insane.
Like giants? Okay. So actually, the Bible translates it. Oh no!
What do you got?
Before you gave. Okay, so in the same. Okay, Genesis chapter 6 verse 4. Okay, this is where. There were giants in the earth in those days.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking.
And also, so I knew, I was like, and also, when the sons of God came in unto the children of men, they bare children to them, the same became mighty men, and were of old men of renown.
Okay,
so,
just real quick, save that spot, and read the verse that you just read before that.
Huh?
Where's the other point that you read this same thing, but it was different wording?
No, I'm saying that I read at the end of it.
Oh, so you didn't you skipped the part where it mentioned the giants?
Yeah, I didn't realize it said it right there at the beginning.
Okay, what I think is unfortunate, and this is my guess, right? My guess is that. By the way, this video is about the book or the books of Enoch, not about Genesis. But
yeah, we're focusing on the first book of Enoch, the Ethiopic.
Correct. My opinion, and I'm a very opinionated person. I don't know if you knew that, Mark. My opinion,
I think we all are, man,
is that when scribes and when the people that have these texts, right, whether they're a scribe or they're some kind of like priest or monk or something, or all of the above, when they're taking these texts and they have all, because for example, the book of Genesis, there's like thousands of different editions of it, right?
It's probably picking up this thing going.
You think so? The bubbles.
Okay, so there's thousands.
There's thousands of different different Genesis texts that are all a little bit different. They're mostly the same, but they're a little bit different. And that's how all old scripture texts are, right?
Yeah, you have all these fragments because you had to handwrite it, and
so when you have this rule, okay, when the church starts to grow, and whether they're Jewish, rabbis or the scribes, or whether they are, Christian at this time, but when they're compiling all these texts together, and like we're gonna write this is gonna be the official book of Genesis, and they have all these different texts. One of the things that happened is because the Word of God is so important, you can't get rid of any of it.
So they just put it all in there.
And so like they have
use the different wordings.
Yeah, they have a nice, with a nice precise description of what these men were, mighty men. But then another scroll that the guy has is like, well, this one also says giants too, and so they have to combine them all, and they have to we can't have a book of Genesis that just says like, we have paraphrased versions today, but these old like King James version and stuff, they're gonna have like and there was mighty men in those days, and they were giants as well, just like we have a raven and a dove in the flood story, the Noah's Ark story, or
Well, yeah, or else in Paul, then you have two different stories on the road to Emmaus.
Oh, maybe, I don't know.
There's two different there's the same story, but something it happens different. Where
was it in a different book?
No, it's in the same. Oh. It's in the same same Bible.
I mean, but was it different, like Pauline text?
I don't. Yeah.
Because there's two Pauls, right? There's two Pauls.
Well, anyway,
was it the pastor and was it Paul, right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
but I'm just saying, there's you have stories to where they'll contradict you, give different truths or different facts to the same story.
This is a good segue into the Book of Enoch, because this book that we're going to be going over this next couple of videos, right, is so full of contradictions.
And so full of just stuff. There's so much. We were just like, I was like we met together last week just to kind of narrow it down, because it's just like, oh my gosh, you got all this. Yeah, you got a bunch of crazy stuff. But anyway, well, let's go over the history of Enoch.
Okay. Do you want me to do that, or do you want me?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm confident in it, but I can try.
Well, go for it. Yeah, because we can start off with the Bible referring to Enoch.
Yeah. So outside of the book of Enoch, we actually, Enoch is mentioned in Genesis, right? There's an interesting. He's kind of like isolated and in his age only being 365 years.
Oh yeah, that's one of the interesting things too.
And then it mentions that he walked, and I haven't read the
well part, here I'll read it real quick.
Mark's gonna read to you so I don't have to slaughter it.
Yeah,
he walked and talked with God or something, and then he left.
Yeah, and Enoch lived 65 years and begot Methuselah, and Enoch walked with God, and after he begot Methuselah 300 years, and begot sons and daughters, and all the days of Enoch were 365 years, and Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. That's so, but they kind of point this. The interesting thing is that they kind of point out this weird story. Mm-hmm. You're like, what?
They allude to it, and then
they just drop it, and so that left a lot of cause for speculation for people. People wanted, because And that's part of the history of Enoch is a lot of people were coming up with books in his name, you know. Well, he walked with God. He was in heaven, you know. So
I think that it does a few things. It leaves room for speculation on, hey, there's a story here that the book of Genesis is just going to skip over.
Yeah.
It does that, and or it leaves a nice opening for later, for people thousands of years later to want to write an apocalyptic book and trying to figure which prophet they're going to name it after.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, there's a lot unknown about Enoch.
Well, yeah, you see that happen a lot in the Bible with the book of Jasher.
Yeah.
Like that. I mean, actually, the actual book of Jasher we have is named something else, but then they just decided to call it the book of Jasher because the Bible mentions it.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. They need to validate their text somehow, because naming it the book of, Brandon. No,
the book of Brandon.
I was thinking about writing an apocalyptic book recently, and I can't name it after myself.
Yeah, you'd have to find some obscure.
Yeah. And Enoch was a perfect, hey, yeah, there's this one guy that apparently was taken up or lived and walked with God, and then he was gone.
Yeah.
He's the perfect. So Enoch was the perfect fictional story.
Well, now we're making it sound like he's not even. I'm just saying a lot of people use it, but now we're making it. Yeah. Well, but actually later.
Disclaimer: I named one of my son's name is Enoch. I actually really respect this literature and stuff.
No, I think it's some of the best, but yeah. So we're not knocking that. We're just saying that it leaves.
You're not knocking it.
Enoching it. But then later, actually, the early Christian church fathers used it. In Jude, this is just one example. He said in Jude 1:14, he says, and Enoch also the seventh from Adam prophesied of these, saying, behold, the Lord cometh with 10,000 of his saints to execute judgment upon all and to convince all that are ungodly among them. Anyway, so he actually quotes Enoch, and that's actually one of the first. In the opening of the book of Enoch, they
reference that.
It's in here, right?
In the opening.
No, well, I'm saying. Oh, I thought you read it. Yeah. The 10,000. The Holy One will come forth from his dwelling, the eternal. Oh gosh, where the heck is it?
I believe you. I just didn't notice that before. Was it up here?
Yeah, it's
here.
Yeah.
And behold, he cometh with 10,000s of his holy ones.
Behold, the Lord cometh with 10,000 of his saints.
I figured that. So you know what? So the author of the book of Jude was like, I want to quote Enoch, and he just opened up to the first page and made a quote.
Well, but it was in reference to what he's talking about with that, because the messianic. That's one of the interesting things about the book of Enoch is it's really messianic, and they have it dated 200 BCE.
Yeah. Let's go over that.
Written. So it was before the Christian era started.
Most of the texts they're dating from between 200 to 250 to 100 BCE.
Yeah.
Right.
And then, but because I don't think any of them go.
There is the introduction chapters 1 through 5. They're wondering if they were added, maybe around the turn of the millennium, but
but it's still before the writing of the New Testament stuff.
Oh yeah,
that's what I'm just saying. It's not like the guy's like, oh, and one of the cool things is that a lot of these dated the actual text that they got the Book of Enoch from were like from 1500.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
You know, like the Ethiopic,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and stuff. But then they found the Qumran or
So in the Dead Sea
the
Scrolls,
Dead Sea Scrolls.
that was like in the 40s, I think, 1940s.
Yeah, but I'm saying those date back to those writings. I think are
they date back to BC, I believe.
yeah. So they have actual texts that
Yeah.
that are dated, like, you know, because a lot of times you get this old text or older text, and you're like, well, it came from something they were actually able to find, and they found a lot of fragments of the Book of Enoch in there, which showed its importance. You know,
And I think that's what's cool. I wasn't planning on mentioning this, but and this is definitely going to be a short video. here's our goal of having a shorter video, and we're already like. So here's the thing: is when I've been reading, we're reading the. I believe we're both. Yours is Charles, right?
Yeah, Charles.
We're reading the R.H. Charles translation, and he actually has two translations. In 1893, he translated one, and it was straight up translation from the Ethiopic, right? And then in 1912, maybe.
Yeah.
I think 1912, he had gotten they had gotten their hands on some Greek fragments, and so he made another translation, and it was still mostly from the Ethiopic text, but he was using his Greek fragments he had it to kind of maybe make it enhance his translation. Maybe I'm not sure how much he changed by it, but he used the Greek text that he also had at that point, and then they have a Latin text as well. So they were taking the different texts they had and making a translation using all of them to try and get the best publication they can get.
Yeah, he was trying to make it. Yeah.
What I think is interesting about that, though, is this is like in the late 1800s, early 1900s. This is before Qumran, before Dead Sea Scrolls, and then of course, because the author of the Book of Jude mentions the Book of Enoch, and because they had other like Christian fathers and other texts that mentioned the Book of Enoch as well, like they knew that it existed and they knew that it was really old.
Yeah.
But they didn't have any actual text that was from that time period. And so I was reading in the introduction to the Book of Enoch from R.H. Charles is huge. Like it's like probably
I know, I need to get that book.
100 pages or more. And one of the things I remember I liked about what he was saying is he basically textually he can see that the book was written in Ethiopic, but then that was a translation that he sees the Greek roots from that, and he can even see the Hebrew and Aramaic roots as well. So to think that, and I'm not sure what year R.H. Charles passed away. Unfortunately, he probably passed away before Qumran.
Oh yeah,
That sucks. But for him, if he would have found out that they actually found Aramaic and Hebrew texts of Enoch, he would have been he was probably, what's that called? Rocking in the, or was it jumping in the grave, or
turning over? No,
there's like some clever saying that I suck at those things. Anyways,
rotting in his grave.
No, that's horrible.
That's what he's doing.
Anyways,
until the day of judgment.
So, yeah, there you go.
Well, so
that was a long spill, but
well, okay, so just real quick to put an end to this. So, there was rumors about this text. You know, people thought they had gotten it at different times. 1683, they thought that they had found a Book of Enoch, but it ended up being totally unrelated. But in 1773, James Bruce, I'm just reading.
Oh yeah, I have read this.
James Bruce, Scottish traveler. No, this guy brought two manuscripts that to England that were actually the Book of Enoch.
Okay.
And then they in extracts and stuff were published in 1800 in Latin. But in 1821 was the first English translation or English version of the whole book translated by Richard Lawrence, who's the Archbishop of Cashel.
Good old Richard Lawrence.
Yeah, and so finally, like this rumored book was actually translated, but a lot of people weren't kind of dismissed it, I guess, in the early, because there was only one text, and it wasn't until R.H. Charles's later one that it kind of gained its elevated itself, you know.
So there was, and that's the history of the Book of Enoch, is there was a few copies, there was some more obscure copies floating around for a couple hundred years, right? Mm-hmm. And it was R.H. Charles, and not to give him all the credit, but him and his people and his teachers that kind of took this around the 1900s and made it a bigger thing.
Yeah. So, but like I said, a lot of people capitalize on the name of Enoch, like the Masons and stuff. They have.
Everybody wants a piece of it.
Yeah, and then a lot of even New Age kind of stuff will talk about these different angels and all this. So there's a lot of different stuff out there, but this is like these are old writings, whether that makes them more valid than modern ones, whatever, but it's interesting stuff and really cool stories, and we're going to get into Enoch and his
visions and journeys and adventures. Should we call this the Adventures of Enoch? Yeah.
Enoch and the Giants.
No, I agree. This whole Enoch circle has captivated. I mean, you got people who like what was it you said? Angelology coming from it.
Oh yeah,
you got astrology.
I'm trying to think who
you have.
There's this guy who's even kind of not devil worshippers, but gosh, what is that guy's name? Aleister Crowley.
Yeah. Aleister, you have people who are associated.
Listened to anything by him?
I have not.
Like he has this one book of the Book of Lies.
Oh, I think I've heard of that. Yeah, so it inspired lots. It inspired lots of different people.
Yeah, and actually, it's got a very pretty thorough angelology in it. Because there's actually 3 books of Enoch. But anyway, we don't need to. But I'm saying, and that's where a lot of the root of all this stuff comes from.
Yeah.
So, there it is.
That's a good introduction, right?
I think so. So we'll jump into on the next episode. We'll jump into Enoch's dealing with the Giants.
Yeah, we're gonna start
with the big boys.
We're gonna start, and we'll explain why. But
the NFL.
The NFL in the fall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
All right.